What's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. You're beautiful and I love you. Miami Heat getting back in the win column, a much-needed win, beating the Indiana Pacers in a mud slugfest tonight. 87-82 to improve to 13-15 on the season. In a building they don't really win in a lot, so a good start to the road trip. Certainly need it in this swing where they're going to take on, the beat Indy, got Oklahoma City and Houston coming on up. It's been called the Victor Oladipo Homecoming Tour. And then wrap things up with a Mexico City game against the San Antonio Spurs, who, of course, they just lost to. And, look, I have gotten to the point where I can't chalk up any win for them because I don't know what team is going to show up. I do like the fact that they basically took this game and, needed to grind one out. They, again, did that thing where they had a 19-point lead in this one and squandered it, basically. That three-point shooting got really hot for Indiana at certain points of this game and really brought them back into it. But, for the most part, Miami did a really, really great job defensively, really anchored by Bam and Jimmy. And they were the catalyst for it, for it really offensively too. And what was not exactly the prettiest offensive game in the world, but Bam pretty much carrying the load for them. I don't know how much you want to take out of this one. I mean, look, this is a road trip where, again, you're looking at the competition that they're taking on. You're looking at the expectations that you had of this team coming into it. Indiana had a better record than you coming into this one, but you're looking at a situation where, you are hoping you can go out on the road and if you're going to do anything, if there's going to be any turnaround to go 3-1 on this trip, obviously there's a back-to-back in there, so that may be tough, but I don't know how many of these, but I also don't have great confidence in it because I just never know what team is going to show up. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, that's a guaranteed 3-1. I got to learn my lesson at some point. I can't continue to sit here, look at the record, expect that they're going to be in this great spot by the end of this thing. I thought that that's where they would be by the end of last week. I thought that they had a homestand coming up with two terrible teams and single-digit wins, and you had a Grizzlies team that was basically gifting you it, that was on short rest, and Miami lost 3 out of 4. They pooped the bed. So it is definitely critical if they're going to do anything at all to take this trip and to really right the ship in any way. I mean, it is a very bunched up Eastern Conference for sure, but Philadelphia's getting healthier. Brooklyn is steamrolling right now, and Cleveland is a good handful of games up on you, even though they've maybe come back to earth a little bit. It's not a crazy thing to think that you could get to that 3 spot, but 1 and 2 seem pretty solidified right now. It's going to be a hellacious climb to get up there, but for Miami, it's just a matter of finding the consistency that they can have every night in and night out. What can be their identity? What guys can they rely upon? I think that becomes a bigger question night in and night out. It was another rough night shooting for the backcourt. Max Strus today, 3 of 12. So, he continues to be out there building a brick house. So I think the more that things seem like this, and Eric Spoelstra played 8 guys tonight. You didn't have Gabe Vincent, but he basically went with a Max Strus, Victor Oladipo, Dwayne Dedmon bench, no Duncan Robinson, which is an interesting one. Max Strus continues to shoot these, have these games where he is just not shooting well. I know Duncan is not really in the great graces of Spo right now, it appears, based on playing time, but I gotta wonder at some point, when do you pull the trigger on just, hey, let's see if Duncan can get on a little bit of a heater, because it's not like Max is playing much better defense. I mean, Max is kind of running around like a chicken with his head cut off too. So I don't know. But that was your game tonight, 87-82 over the Pacers. They'll look to keep this thing going. I did want to get to this. This was a little bit interesting. Now, mind you, I'm not an advocate for tanking. I'm not a fan of it. The Heat don't typically do it. But I did find this one interesting. Victor Wenbanyama, who is the big great prize out of all of this. Everybody is looking at him and wanting their teams to tank. A lot of people are like, getting the goosies of checking out. And lotteries can be fun. Like the last time the Heat were actually in the lottery was when they were in the Zion lottery. And I was actually, doing the morning show at the time. We did a bit, and we were like, it was a sacrifice to the basketball gods. It was me and Zaslow. And we said, if they actually somehow were to get the number one overall pick, we would sacrifice our bodies to the basketball gods and get New York Knicks tattoos. I mean, like, look, we knew that it was a very, very slim chance, so we probably wouldn't have to sacrifice our bodies as an offering, but it was a fun bit. It was a fun bit at the time. And then I remember being at the arena that night, and they did not get him. They did not get it. That ended up being the Tyler Hero draft, which worked out very well for Miami. But certainly, it's such a crapshoot to think that you could get into that position. And you think about all the teams that people thought were going to be in this position. They thought the Jazz were going to be looking for. They thought the Indiana Pacers were going to be one of those teams. Certainly the Detroit, they get the news of Cade Cunningham today. He's going to be out for the season getting that shin surgery. They might be well positioned to go get him. San Antonio, when they're not playing the Miami Heat, I'm certainly thinking that they're going to be trying to get in on that game too. But Michael Douglas, how about this? Michael Douglas was watching Wembanyama play ball, and he's watching the game. Big fan of basketball. He's talking to the French reporter. He's spitting some French at him. And they're asking, who do you like? You like Wembanyama? Yes, I like him. I was talking to him a little bit. He goes, do you think he can be a success in the NBA? Oh, of course. Talk to people, who think he can be great. Who do you think, who do you root for? He says, Miami Heat. He goes, I root for the Miami Heat, baby. He didn't say it like that, but basically that's what I heard when I heard Michael Douglas say that he roots for the Miami Heat. Michael Douglas, longtime friends with Pat, great friends, close friends with the legend, Pat Riley. And so apparently he was telling Wembanyama, hey, come on down to Florida. That's not obviously how it works. He's like, listen, he even said in the interview, I don't think they're going to get him. But I thought that was cool. I thought that was cool that Michael Douglas is out here letting Wembanyama. You know what? He's starting that recruiting early. Who knows? Riles might be off into the sunset by the time Wembanyama free agency hits the market. But shout out to Michael Douglas, already sharpening the harpoon, letting Victor know, hey, down the road, let's just think about it, Miami. And so I thought that was a cool moment that Michael Douglas acting like a true Heat lifer out there, letting people know. He goes, hey, you know what team I love? Miami Heat. I'm letting Wembanyama know. Get your ass to Florida. I love it. Tanking is a crazy thing though. Like even with the Heat, you had the Barkley comment over the last week where Spo scoffed at it, where Barkley's saying blow it up. And, it is we are hitting, I think, a critical time. It was about Christmas time. What are we at? We're at, 28 games. I'd say a dozen more games. You're getting to a dozen more games. The Heat will probably know where are they going. What do they feel like? I don't think the move, though, for the Heat is blow it up. I think that because Pat Riley feels a sense of responsibility to Jimmy Butler, he is the orca that said yes after a lot of chases, and he's rewarded them with some really, really good seasons. I almost feel like it's going to be a complete retooling of the role guys at some point, a little bit like they did going into the bubble where they got Andre Iguodala and they got Jay Crowder. Really retooled that team in a big time way because, you went from a team that was starting Kendrick Nunn and was starting Myers Leonard, and then you moved Gogi to the starting lineup, and you had, Jay Crowder move to the starting lineup, and then you had Andre Iguodala come off the bench. So I think that it's going to be more in that ilk, continue to see what Victor Oladipo can develop on. Hope that one of Max Strus and Duncan Robinson figures this the hell out so they can go and be your igniter from downtown off the bench. But I think, that one extra piece, there's a lot of Jay Crowder stuff that's out there right now. But I don't see the idea that Miami's going to go and just completely drop the grenade and say, we're trading Jimmy and we're going to go into Wembanyama mania and, start getting the campaigns going for Wenbanyama, because you put him down at Wynwood, he's going to be like a piece of art of basketball. I think we're not going to get those campaigns going. Have I thought about it? Possibly. But I mean, are we really going to get those things going? No. I can't imagine that type of blow up is really going to happen. And that stuff sucks, man. Like, I remember the Heat, tanking and Riley leaving to go scout and, them getting Michael Beasley. And Michael Beasley felt like can't miss. You had Derrick Rose, who was obviously the prize of that draft, but Michael Beasley was thought of as can't miss, was not going to be a guy that was, going to be having trouble finding his footing in the league and pairing up with D Wade. But it just never took foot the way that it should. And I do think that it was also kind of I think Bees was a bit of a victim of his era too. I think that if Michael Beasley would have come in like 7 years later, like after the big three, I think that it's just an era of basketball that just would have suited him a lot more, because they kind of was like, well, what is he? Is he a 3? Is he a 4? Can he defend? What do we do? All that stuff, and just never could just grab his footing. I mean, I know that he had many stints with the Heat, but I'm talking about like when you're really invested in with the most when it comes to he's the number 2 pick. But once you get D Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh, plans change, things change, your goals change. So scouting is but the whole tanking for Wembanyama, I'm with Michael Douglas. I don't think that it happened, but I do appreciate the shout out from him. I thought that was really cool.